Thank you all for taking time out of your Tuesday to jump on with us this morning, this afternoon, wherever you may be. This is an interesting one. This is something that a lot of people continue to get wrong. Okay. So, what we're going to talk about today are just some ideas, some strategies, and there's not a lot of cost involved, right? A lot of people think, well, in order to find better candidates, I need to, hire recruiters and I need to pay all these, I need to pay for LinkedIn and I need to pay for Indeed and I need to, boost things here and there. And I'm here to tell you that, sure, that might be one idea, one approach, but I've found that, if you follow some of the steps that we're going to talk about today, that you can get yourself in front of very, very good candidates and have great conversations without spending a lot of money. What I wanted to talk about today, uh, quick overview of, the importance, obviously, of effective hiring. Share with you some of the recruitment strategies that we've adopted here at Pay Entry. um, when you then implement those strategies and you are now reviewing resumes and applications, what are some things that you can do to be able to prepare yourselves for the interview? How are you going to conduct that interview? And then, after that, what does the post-interview process look like, before you're making that offer and onboarding the individual? Bad hire. What exactly are we talking about when we reference, I made a bad hire? Because I hear that a lot. The phone call comes in, Brett, I've got a question. Nick has been here, with me for, it's been about 35 days and it's not really working out. I think he may have, overstated his qualifications on his resume and things kind of fell through the cracks. And yeah, I need to know what I can do. Can I get rid of him? I've heard that, I should make changes within the first 90 days because that's the introductory period. How does that work? Right. This is how every phone call kind of kicks off. And we say, okay, let's kind of talk through this. Okay. Um, where did we find this individual? Where did we find this candidate? Okay, did it come through a recruiting channel, through a dashboard? Was it a referral from one of your employees? Was it somebody that just walked into your store, walked into your restaurant, and completed an application? Right. We want to understand where the candidate came from, so we can kind of work backwards to unpack where we may have made a mistake uh, along the way. Right. Did this person misrepresent their skills or their knowledge during the recruiting and interview phases? It happens all the time, right? Anybody can put whatever they want on a resume, right? Anybody can fill out whatever they want if they're on Indeed or LinkedIn or, Monster or any of these other sites. It's up to us to weed through all of the BS, right? And then, kind of hold their feet to the fire to figure out, are they actually the person that they say they are, and can they actually perform what they're telling us? Okay? Failing to meet minimum standards for performance and the quality of work that they're um, performing. Um, another red flag, right off the bat. And I say this and people kind of laugh, but you'd be shocked as to how many um, times this happens, right? Where we're talking about an interview, and instead of asking questions about, like, all right, what does the day to day look like? What are the expectations for me in this role? How can I continue to move forward with your company? The first thing out of the person's mouth is, hey, what kind of vacation do I get? Right? How much money are you going to pay me? Right? What kind of insurance are you going to offer me? Right? Again, I know that people show up, right, to work every day to get paid, right, and to provide a living for themselves and their family, right? But these are clear tells as to, you might not be in front of the right candidate. Okay. And if you're not in front of the right candidate, how did that candidate get in front of you? Ask those questions. Right? I'm a firm believer that there's no such thing as a coincidence. There's no such thing as bad luck. Okay. There's a reason why this candidate sitting in front of us got here. Right. And if it's somebody who's way off target and you would never even consider hiring, that means we have a leak. There's a crack somewhere in our foundation, in our initial approach, and that's where we should be focusing, because we should be able to trim down a list, right? Another thing that I hear, man, you know what? Indeed is like nauseating, because I put a post on there and I have 150 candidates. Okay, well, that's too many, right? Well, our post, great, they're finding us, but we need to maybe whittle down, some of our, criteria to make sure that we should be getting about 20 to 30. That's the sweet spot, 20 to 30, and then we kind of go through our pre-screening process, and we can get that, maybe down to 10, is what I like to see, and we're going to talk through how to get there. Okay, another, bad hires, right? Again, right off the bat, right? First impression is everything. Okay. A lot of these calls that I get, hey, my new hire is asking for time off already, right? Taking long, we give everybody a half-hour lunch, and this person's always, taking 40 minutes. Person's first week on the job already showing up to work late, things of that nature. Okay. Attitude is another one. They're struggling to get along with colleagues. I see this happen sometimes, in a culture to where you might be bringing in somebody that has experience in your industry, but with a competitor, right? That's usually where I see, fit and culture sometimes kind of pop up, right? Like in our business, right? There are hundreds of other payroll companies, nationwide. And if I were to try to find somebody for pay entry that maybe came from one of our competitor payroll companies, yeah, they might have struggles adapting to our culture, right? They might be used to doing things their way, or their other company used to do things this way, and pay entry is asking them to do things this way, and they don't quite understand why. It's something that you need to be mindful of. Okay. If you're very, very big on, your process and your procedure and doing things your way, then you might not want to look for candidates that have experience, lengthy amount of experience with a competitor, because they're going to have bad habits, and it's going to be very, very difficult for you to kind of get them to see things through your eyes, and adopt your vision. Okay. They don't have the right personality for the specific job they were hired for. Okay. I'm not sure how many of you on our call today have ever used the Gallup Strengths, right? Clifton Strength Finder, now is owned by Gallup, I believe. Having people go through this Strength Finder. I know that we've all done that here at Pay Entry, and it is a tremendous tool that you can implement for not a lot of money, right? And here's what you'll get from that, right? If you are looking for a salesperson, right, there's certain personality traits and characteristics that the best salespeople have, right? They're not afraid to hear no. They're not afraid to pick up the phone and be rejected. They're just going to keep bouncing back and bouncing back, and they're going to be persuasive, right? And if you hire somebody who's an introvert and they're scared to death to pick up the phone, or if somebody tells them no, they're going to kind of crawl into a hole and it's going to ruin their week, that's not somebody that you want to hire for a sales role, right? You're going to put them in there, they're going to last maybe 30 or 60 days, and then you're going to be hiring again, right? So these are just, I talk about this stuff because these are common mistakes that a lot of our clients have made in the past. And this is how, the Pay Entry HR team, this is what we do for our clients. We have these conversations, right? We'll help you, right? We'll help you figure out how to issue spot what might be going wrong in your front end, right? We'll help you then rebuild the processes, whether it's with documents, whether it's with training you and your team, and anybody who's going to be interviewing, preparing documents, walking through mock interviews, etc. The only thing that we don't do at Pay Entry is we do not interview candidates for you, right? We don't do that because they're your employees, it's your business, right? But we're certainly going to get you all the way up there to the end and help you, um, you know, add some of these tools and add this process so that you can really reduce the chances that a bad hire would ever kind of sneak through the cracks. I mean, you don't need me to tell you this, right? But here's the impact on the organization if somebody does fall through, right? You have slow or error-filled work, right? Now you have managers, you have other teammates that are getting burned out because I always have to cover for Nick. He should have never been here in the first place. Now I'm coming in early, I'm staying late to try to do my work and his work. And now we're talking about overtime, burnout, all kinds of issues, right? Stress to the team, decline in morale. Um, the worst case scenario is that if you don't address the bad hire immediately, it may cost you your good employees. Okay. That manager or that, team lead who's now covering for Nick, right? If you don't address Nick soon, then what's going to happen is that other employee might think, well, geez, Brett's a knucklehead. He doesn't really see that this guy Nick doesn't know what he's doing. I'm out. I'm not going to wait for the light bulb to come out. I'm not dealing with this, right? And that's what kind of pains me is when we get into these situations and it's too late, and you on the client side don't realize you have a problem until you've already now lost one of your good people because we didn't drop the hammer soon enough. Okay. Obviously, financial, that's a no-brainer, right? Continuing to turn people over. Um, and yeah, the client interactions, right? Your clients are gonna be like, well, what's going on over there, right? Why does Brett keep hiring these people? Every time I call in now, I'm getting horrible service, and it might cost you clients. They might go to find another payroll company, or like, you know what, I'm not going to this restaurant anymore. They keep getting my order wrong. They're not very friendly. I'm gonna go somewhere else, and you lose business. So it's very, very important, right? So the mantra that we use here at Pay Entry is, and if you've ever gone through an HR audit with me and you've used our HR services in the past, you heard me say, hire slow and fire fast. That's got to be the mantra, right? Hire slow. It's like dating, right? We're not just going to get married to the first candidate that comes in and fogs a mirror because we're going to end up getting burned, right? We really need to slow down the front end hiring process and make sure that we're very, very confident that this is the right person for us before we make that offer. Okay. And even then, it's not foolproof. There might be a situation where it's just not the right fit. It's a great person and they got in and they just didn't quite understand what they were dealing with, and they decide, you know what, I'm not sure this is the right fit for me. Or we see from a distance that they're really not clicking like we had hoped they would, right? If that's the case, then we need to jump in immediately. We can't just wait and let things continue to kind of spiral, right? And going back to my example of the 30, the first 90 days, that introductory period, you don't have to keep somebody for 90 days, right? If it's apparent after 10 days or 40 days that this person is just not the right person, then we can pull the plug, right? We absolutely can pull the plug. We don't have to wait until 90 days. We don't have to keep, dealing with poor performance or behavioral issues and feel like we're being held hostage by a bad hire. Okay. What we do need to work on, though, is this last point here, is identifying specific areas and raising those concerns. Okay. That's another thing that sometimes people kind of confuse. Well, you said fire fast, Brett, so it's 4 days in and I'm just pulling the plug. Well, all right, but did you talk to Nick? Did you let him know that what he's doing is incorrect? Or have you shared with him how his behavior or how his approach is rubbing people the wrong way, right? Because if the answer is no, then we're creating the second issue, right? What's going to happen now is we're going to develop a reputation that we don't coach and we don't train. That if you're not ready by day one to perform, then Brett's just going to pull the plugs. Don't even work there. It's not even worth you trying to go down a path to get a job at that place because they're not going to coach you. They're not going to teach you. I made one small mistake and they fired me after 4 days. You don't want that. And especially nowadays with all of the online review sites, Glassdoor and Indeed and LinkedIn and Google, etc. You have to be very careful. You want to be fair. Okay. So the process is you bring them in, and you're clear with what the objectives are for the first 30 days, the first 60 days, the first 90 days. And if things are not being done, then you're stopping immediately. Okay. The analogy that I kind of use is, It's like my kids. Okay, if I were to, I have a 7-year-old, I have an 11-year-old daughter and a 7-year-old son, right? They're a little bit older now, but if I were to go home from work this afternoon and my son is jumping up and down on the furniture, right? I have to address that immediately. Hey, buddy, that's not a good idea, right? You know that you know better, right? Okay, Dad, yep. And then it's done. Okay. I'm not flying off the handle. I'm not yelling and screaming. I'm not whacking anybody, right? But I'm certainly not, just walking down, looking at it, acknowledging it, and walking the other way, because then he's going to think that it's okay. So the first day, hey man, it might be kind of, awkward, but hey, you know what? It's 8:03, right? You're supposed to be here at 8 o'clock. I'm not sure where the miscommunication is, but we've talked about that your schedule is at 8, right? And if you're running late, you're supposed to call me. So this isn't going to happen again. And we have to be firm and address it immediately and offer that feedback, right? So that they understand. So if it happens again, now we don't have to keep giving them chance after chance after chance. Okay. If it happens again, then we can kind of move on. Okay. Um, And again, this is where, as we have these conversations, we're talking to them, we're figuring out, did something kind of fall through the gaps? Is there something else that I need to do? And we're having as a cost benefit analysis here is, okay, um, would it help me to get them some additional training? Can I coach them? Is there value in that? Or would terminating employment be the better approach? Right? And it's different in each situation. Okay. That's what we're here for, is to be able to help you build up that process so that everybody under your roof, every hiring manager has the same uniform approach, and we can be sure that we're really limiting the amount of times that somebody might fall through the cracks. Maybe we're talking about once a year, right? And that's if you're hiring, a handful of people a month. If you're only hiring a few people a year, then we shouldn't have anybody, right? We should be able to have a pretty tight grasp on this process so that we're asking the right questions. And I already mentioned, right, this is what we can do. Pay Entry is absolutely here to be able to support you and help you walk through these things if you have any concerns. Um, and, to go through the cost benefit analysis, we can look at some of the analytics. We can show you, okay, how many people did you have in there? Was there, anybody else that you interviewed that may have been a better fit? And if the answer was no, then it might make sense to retain the employee, but offer some, a little bit more support to see if we can kind of get them out of their funk. Okay. But again, even if we did that, it's going to be something short term. It's going to be maybe a few more weeks, another 30 days at best, to see if they're able to, the light bulb comes on. And if it's not, then we're not going to continue to just, spin wheels and waste our time. We'll have to move on. Okay. A recruiting strategy. This is something that a lot of people often overlook. Okay. Proactive. Everything that we do here at Pay Entry on the HR side of things, proactive. Okay. It's very easy for us to just react to situations. Okay. But it never works. Never, ever works. So what does a proactive recruiting strategy mean? Well, it means that you have a team, okay? And we're talking to the sales manager and we have analytics. And we say, okay, hey, Christina, okay, how's it going in your sales department, right? You've got 5 people. How are they doing? Well, you know what, Brett, 4 out of the 5 are doing a tremendous job, okay? But I've got one that's struggling a little bit. All right, let's talk about it. All right. All right, Christina, you've been doing this a long time. Is this person that's struggling, do we see them getting out from underneath of this cloud? Are they going to be able to shake whatever's bothering them? Can we offer a little bit of support and help? Or is they just maybe not cut out for it? And if the answer is not cut out for it, or I'm not sure, the person's not going to succeed. Okay. In the next 30, 60, 90 days, that person is going to fall off, whether they resign, they're not feeling it anymore, or we have to step in and terminate employment. But that's going to be our now, green light that we need to start preparing for a position. Okay. We're not going to wait until Christina needs to let somebody go, right? Or that person just quits and now we have a hole in our team, right? We need to have somebody in the pipeline ready to go so that when we have to make that decision on this employee, we have somebody to replace them immediately, right? We're letting them go today on Monday, and the new hire is going to start again now midweek or early next week, right? Quick, okay? Um, Understanding the essential functions of this role that you're looking for, right? The skill set, the expertise. Job descriptions are extremely important. Okay. Um, a job description, and I'm giving away a little, a little bit of my process, right? That we talk about in our audits, but you need to make sure that you have three pieces, okay, to your job description. You want to make sure that you have obviously all the day-to-day overview and the responsibilities and skills. That's easy. Okay. The two pieces that people usually miss, are the physical requirements. That's another thing that I see a lot. A lot of people make mistakes. They don't have the physical requirements. You need to know that if you work here in my restaurant, that you're going to have to lift these boxes. You have to unload the truck when they come and drop off the supplies. And it could be 50 pounds. It can be 100 pounds. You're going to have to move tables and chairs, right? You need to make sure that you're not setting yourself up for any type of workers' comp issue because you didn't tell me, right? I can't lift 50 pounds because I've got multiple shoulder surgeries. Okay. And you didn't tell me. So the first time I try, now I'm injured. Now I'm out of workers' comp. Okay. Or even worse, I make a mistake and I ruin something. I drop some of your inventory and I cost the company thousands of dollars because I ruined something because I never told you or you never asked me about the physical requirements. Okay. We also need to make sure that it has language on the job description about, equal opportunity employment and whether or not this employee that you are, or candidate, I should say, is able to perform the job without the need for an accommodation. We need to know that. Okay. We need to know. It happens a lot. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry, Brett. I have eyesight issues. I can't work at night. Well, I hired you to be a server for my, you have an extensive resume on serving at high, high volume and high, highly trafficked restaurants, and I need you on my Friday nights, my Saturday nights. Well, yeah, I can't drive at night. I can only work in the morning. Well, we're not even open in the morning, right? So how the heck does that happen? That we get our wires crossed, that bad that here we are thinking we found the perfect candidate, and this person's on a different wavelength. Okay, we talk about that in the job description, right? We let them know this is the position, these are the shifts, this is what I need to make sure that you understand all of this, and you're signing off that you're able to perform these functions without the need for an accommodation. Because if you can't, then we need to talk about that right now, right? And that's not discrimination. If you have a evening shift, if you are hiring for an evening role and the person cannot work in the evening, you can withdraw. You can move on to a different candidate. That's not discriminatory, right? You have a business justification, and we can help you go through those things. And this is why I say proactively, right? Putting yourself in a position to maintain control throughout the entire process. Okay. So that we are not worrying about these issues then that are going to, kind of come up and throw curveballs on our plate, and we have to, figure out how to deal with them. Okay. Um, yeah, we don't want to rush, right? We're not going to rush into the hiring process. Okay. Um, if somebody's, obviously first impression is everything. Okay. If this candidate, and what I do, and another thing, another, little tip, right? I usually do all of the first interviews, and it's very, very short, maybe 15, 20 minutes. Okay. And I'm just doing a quick once over, whether it's in person or whether it's over the phone or over, Zoom or Teams. And I'm looking, does this person look the part? Okay. Do I see this person, representing my company? And if the answer is no, then I'm not proceeding any further. Is this person, does it look like they took this serious? Okay. Are they presentable? We have hair all over the place and pajamas and, some kind of, vulgar or, t-shirt or some political, mess that like, what are you doing? Right? This is a job interview. And if they don't look like they're taking it serious, then I'm out. There's no way that I'm going to waste my time or waste my team's time, going through an interview with somebody who's not going to take this seriously. Legal requirements of the job descriptions and the postings. Some states, I know where I'm at in California, is there are a lot of things that we need to have on there. There are some other states as well that have legal requirements for what must be on a posting. So you need to know what your state requires and making sure that everything that you have out there, client or candidate facing, I should say, is 100% correct. That's an easy target for lazy plaintiffs attorneys, right? What they do is they'll hire, a buddy of theirs, hey, I'll pay you 20, 15, $20 an hour. I just want you to go on Indeed and start submitting resumes all over the place and find me the ones in California that don't have the wage range posted, because those are easy violations. We can just send them letters and sue them. Okay. Find me the ones, that ask you to fill out a job application that's asking for protected class info. That's asking for your date of birth on a job application, asking for your social on an application. Okay. Asking about previous criminal convictions on your application. Okay. Those types of things can get us in hot water depending on what state we're in. And there are attorneys that they pay people to go out there and drum up all these issues, and then they're going to send you letters to be able to sue you. Okay. Um, what to look for when you're screening. Okay. Description of the work history, skills, job changes. Is this right? What they call a job hopper. Is this somebody who's every 5-6 months is at a new job? That's not somebody that I want to entertain. Okay. Large gaps. All right. There might be an explanation. More often than not, there isn't. So, hey, well, okay, it looks like you've been out of work for a few years. Where you been? It's okay to ask that, you know. Um, I look at it this way, okay? I'm not sure when the last time that you needed to, those of you on this call have needed to, find a job. I've been blessed, okay, that I haven't had to look for a job in 15 years, okay? But when I was looking for a job, man, it was the most important thing, of my day, okay? I made sure that that resume and any interaction was pristine. Okay, the resume was clean, and I was able to explain everything, and I had my skills. And if somebody asked me a question, I had a thoughtful response. If somebody sent me a questionnaire, I gave back thoughtful responses. If somebody asked me to fill out a job application, it was thorough. Okay. So just little things like that go a long way. Okay. And that's another thing, that we'll talk about here in a second when we're talking about recruiting strategies. Okay. One of my tricks that we use, okay, is when we have postings on pay entry for Indeed, okay, um, we have them express interest, okay, and then we'll look at it. And then what we'll do is we'll say, okay, these 5 people here look like they might be a good fit. I'm going to now email all 5 of them, and I'm going to ask them to complete this job application that I'm sending them. Okay. That's the first test. If I get back a job application that looks like a kindergartner wrote it, out. Okay. If I get a job application that has blank spots that they skipped things, out. Okay. If they're not going to give me 10 minutes up front to really take time to thoughtfully respond and really complete this application, why on earth would I waste an hour to interview them? Okay. And why would I even think that they'd do any better in front of my clients if they're not going to give me 10 minutes at the very front end? Okay. It works, guys. I'm telling you. This is what I said. Small adjustments at the front end, okay, go a long way towards, uncovering red flags and bringing people into your organization that might not fit. Um, when you're getting those resumes and you're getting the applications, okay, great. hey, you know what? And this is what I said, all right, maybe we started off, we had 20 people, and then we sent, that email to 10. Okay. And, 4 out of 10 actually thoughtfully responded, were professional with their response and sent back, completed applications. So now I'm going to call these four and set up that initial phone screening. Okay. Um, I'm looking at the resumes. Okay, how kind of close to with what I was looking for, how close was this person? Okay, and obviously those are the ones that I'm going to bring in. Okay, the ones that weren't going to be a fit, or just right off the bat, or maybe that initial 30 that I just weren't going to work, or maybe they sent us back an incomplete. Um, Application, we need to make sure that we um, respond to everybody. Okay. Some states, and I say some because California is the leader on this. Okay. And I'm not saying this to kind of get you all freaked out, right? But the best practice is that if you are going to, and with anything that you do in life, right, is if somebody offers you something or somebody's interested, you should take 2 minutes to say, hey, thank you for the application, but we're moving forward with somebody else. Don't leave them hanging. Okay. Applicant tracking systems, we have one here at PayEntry that we can show you if you need one. Okay. They have templates and stuff that will do this for you. Okay. But what we don't want to do is if we had 30 resumes come in, okay, we don't want to just hone in on the 3 or 4 that we want to hire and leave these other 26 people hanging. Right. It's just not professional. And in some states, it can cause you some legal issues, California being one of them. Okay. Um, we want to just create a template. We can help you create a template, or we can help you create an emailed response so that you can say, hey, you know what? Thank you for applying for this job at Brett's Restaurant. We appreciate you, but we've chosen to move forward with another candidate. That's all you have to say. Okay. Another question. Well, Dina called and wants to know, hey, Brett, what can I do better next time? How will you, what didn't you like about my application? No. Okay? We're not getting into that. We do not have to get into that, and I recommend that you don't get into that. Okay. Okay, we're not going to respond to those things. We're just going to say, hey, thank you, but we've decided to move on with somebody else. That's it. That's all you have to say. Okay. And obviously, right, we're not in any other type of personal information. We don't want a lot of personal information up front that may, cause any type of subconscious bias. It happens every once in a while, not very much anymore, but it does depend, and I see this sometimes when you have a medium or larger organization and you have different people, in your process. You might have one manager that's looking for one set of tools and another manager's looking for another one, and they're kind of, when you're asking them to find candidates, they bring you back different calibers because they have sometimes subconscious biases. Okay. um, this is all very, for the most part, common sense, right? We're not making assumptions. We want to ask. Okay. Don't, superficial issues, style, font, and length of resume. Length is not what I'm looking for, right? It's the substance. Okay. And the application, right? Did they take time to fill it out? Okay. um, and were there thoughtful responses? Personal social media, do not do that. Okay. I know a lot of us, oh, well, sometimes I'll just kind of look at Facebook to see what's going on. Don't do that. Okay. There is a time and a place for that, but it's not at the very, very beginning, right? During the interview phase, right? There's a huge difference between, pre and post offer. If we've made an offer and now we have somebody that they're going through a background check and we're calling references and they're going through a drug test, etc. Depending on what state you're in, certain states have different rules for social media. But for today's webinar, I would just eliminate social media from any type of screening because there's way too much risk, and there's been a lot of litigation for discriminatory hiring practices in some states that came from social media research. Okay. Red flags, right? Um, Unusually long delay. Again, like what I just talked about. Okay. Hey, when I wanted a job, when I was looking for a job 15 years ago, man, I was on the phone, pick it up on the first ring, respond to the first message, respond to the email. That was the number one priority, right? If if you say, hey Brett, I'd like you to come on in for an interview, and you're waiting, it's like a day, 2 days, like this is not a priority for them, right? Move on. Okay. Focused on questions regarding benefits and compensation. We talked about that. Showing up late to the interview. I mean, you got to be kidding me. Okay. It has happened. I think in my 15 years, I think maybe 3 or 4 times, a candidate just walks in late, not interested. Now, it's one thing if they call you, hey, Brett, I'm sorry, man, I'm coming from downtown LA. You're 40 minutes away. I'm stuck in traffic. Hey, if they call you and they let you know that they're running late and there's a circumstance, that's not an issue. Okay. Not an issue. But if it's just somebody who just walks in 5, 10 minutes late without picking up the phone, problem. Okay. Lastly, on this list here, and this is the one that's probably the most common, they have no idea who you are and what you do, right? They have no idea. What do you know about pay entry? Oh. What do you know about the payroll industry? Oh. Then why are you here, right? And what happens is that most states now, post COVID, okay, another little hint, post COVID, most states will require you as a condition to maintain unemployment. Okay, you have to show the state unemployment agency that you are continuing to look for work. So what does that mean? That means Brett's going to be up late on Monday night on Indeed, firing off 100 different resumes, clicking everything that comes up in a 10-mile radius, just so I can show my caseworker that, hey, look, I applied to all the, hey, look, they didn't hire me. I applied though. I'm trying, right? So let me continue to live off the government and receive my unemployment. Okay, so you'll see that, when you talk to people and you ask them, if they have no idea who you are and what you do, it's because they're just online firing off resumes to try to satisfy their unemployment. That's it. Okay. Anybody who's serious is going to know, yeah, Pantry, I know who you are. I've been on your website. I saw your reference sheet and I actually called one of your clients. I called so and so and they said this is a great company to do business with. Or I saw one of your employees on LinkedIn and I messaged Mike and he told me how great this is. Okay. Those are the kind of people that you want to be in front of, right? I would absolutely make sure that we start off with just a basic phone interview. Okay. 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Okay. What do you know about pay entry? Have you seen our website? Okay. Do you know anything about payroll? Right? Have you seen the job description? Do you know what we're getting ourselves into? Do you have any questions for me? Okay. And if the person's engaged and they can kind of speak clearly and it sounds like somebody that you'd want to have a conversation with, then we bring them in. Come on in for an interview. Okay. Use an email template, right? A lot of people, sometimes depending on the demographic, might still struggle with technology. So best practice is, right, we're going to plan the place and time for the interview, and we're going to send a calendar invite. Okay. Calendar invite. It's from 10 to 11. Here's our address. Here's my cell phone number. Should there be any curveballs you need to, reschedule, or you're running a little bit late due to something that's outside of your control, right? Help them, get a good first step. Um, Choosing the wrong interviewer. This is another thing too that happens very frequently. When I get into to HR audits and I talk to our clients that tell me, oh Brett, man, like I'm having a hard time. I keep hiring knuckleheads. I can't find the right candidate. Help me. Okay, well, who's doing the interviews? Okay, and this is where that strength finder type of analysis comes into play. I'll give you an example. Okay, we have a client here in Southern California, the sweetest lady, right? Elder lady, has a little retail type of a boutique, makes tremendous, arts and crafts, and has a very successful business. Okay, but she's not good at interviewing because she loves everybody and she'll give you the shirt off of her back. So when I walk in there for an interview, and I say, hi, I'd like to work for you. I've been unemployed a little bit. I've got, 2 kids. She's just going to start crying. Like, oh my God, I need to give you a job so that you can support your family, right? And how she came to us was like, I keep hiring the wrong people. And it took her a while to realize that she was the problem, that she just felt so bad and compelled to kind of solve all the world's problems. She just wanted to hire everyone because she felt bad for them. And like, no, this is not personal. This is your business. These are not good employees. There's a reason why they're continuously unemployed. And it's not our job to solve the world's problems, right? You got to run your business. So if you have situations like that, we need to make sure that we are putting the right person in there to conduct these interviews, somebody who can maintain a neutral environment, who's going to take time, who's going to get themselves prepared to ask the questions and go down our talk track that we create together. Okay? We want to make sure that we have, guides, structured way of asking the questions. Okay, taking notes. Okay, I think multiple people in an interview is a great tactic. I like that because sometimes you might be talking, I might be speaking, but then Dina next to me, something comes in, she's, oh, you know what? And she kind of chime in because she heard something or she has a little bit of a different perspective. I think that the multi-step approach and more than one person in there is actually very good if you don't already do that. And it absolutely helps, reduce that bias. You want to know the candidate. Make sure that you've spent time reviewing the resume. Um, and you know who it is, right? You know their background. Why is it that that resume jumped out at the very beginning? Why is that person sitting here? Okay. Because if you expect them to take the time to do their homework about your company, then you need to at least show them the same courtesy in return. Okay. The venue, making sure that you're choosing a place that's quiet, that's private, right? There's not people walking in and out. There's not loud noises that are interrupting you, right? Because this is recruiting, right? Just because they're there, you want to make sure that you're putting your best foot forward. Okay, you're trying to sell them, right? Just as much as they're trying to sell you on why you should hire them, you're trying to sell them on why they want to work for you, right? Especially if you're getting in front of the best candidates. The best candidates are going to be ones that might have two or three other interviews lined up. So you're competing for them, right? We can't just wing it. And if we do, then we shouldn't expect to get, very solid hires. Okay. Um, in a virtual environment, yeah, most of the interviews today are virtual. We want to make sure that these candidates that you have a link, you send them the link, you double check, hey, you received it, you know, I expect you to be on video, right? Make sure that you're in a place to where it's quiet, that you're going to be on video, that you're going to be presentable, that you're not just calling while you're driving and I'm looking at the ceiling of your car, right? Or that you have some other kind of you have like the camera off for some reason because you're in a place that doesn't get good service. Those are also red flags. Okay? And let them know what you expect. Hey, I'm gonna speak with you for 10, 15 minutes. Here's what I'm asking for. And if you get through that process and you decide that you're still interested on moving forward, then I'd like to see some references. I'd like to see, a portfolio, show me, how do I know that what's on this resume is actually legit? Obviously, internet connections, it happens all the time, right? Oh, well, I'm up here in the mountains and well, or even me as the employer, if I know that I'm on vacation on Monday and I'm going to be in the mountains or I'm going to be somewhere that I might get bad connection, then why would I schedule myself an interview for Monday? Right? But again, it still happens, right? Making sure that you are giving them the same courtesy that you expect from them. You're not in the interview, you got the cell phone and you're texting, all right, cool, while they're talking to you. That's disrespectful. You wouldn't want that happening from them. So you leave the phone out of the room, okay? And make sure that you are, dressed in a manner and acting in a manner as, and as attentive as you expect them to be. Okay? Um, we'll kind of breeze through these here, and we've got about 10 minutes or so. A lot of this stuff is common sense, but people ask, well, I really need to understand this information, right? I need to know whether or not they have reliable transportation. That's probably the most common. Okay? I need to know, but why not ask them, do you own a car? Right? You can't, there's a way that you can phrase that. Okay. Here's the schedule that I need you. Here's the location. Are you able to work this specified schedule? Okay. No problem. It's getting you the answer that you need without you stepping in a pile, right, and setting yourself up for any type of, discrimination claim because you've asked the wrong questions. Um, Everything, right? I went through and made sure that these are all the most common ones, right? Um, Pay history is probably the most, nowadays there's federal fair pay and pay equity legislation. A lot of states have adopted their own, right? We're not asking them what did you get paid at your last job? We're not asking them we're not asking that them directly. We're not putting that on the application, right? What we do is obviously on the job description, okay, on the job posting, we're putting the salary range. Like, hey, look, if you're going to start as an entry level customer service representative at pay entry, here's what you're going to get, right? It's between $18 and $20. Right up front. Take the elephant out of the room right up front. Okay. If we decide to move forward, is that range acceptable for you? If they're like, oh no, I need to make 30, well then we're done because I'm not paying you 30. We only pay 18 to 20. Okay? Um, these are just another. I wanted to list some additional bias here, right? That I've seen, over while kind of coaching people on how to interview. Um, you know, the halo effect happens a lot. I see that a lot in interviews, and this is why I like to have people where you double up, right? An example would be school, right? You put me in front of somebody that I went to the same high school with or the same college with, and we're going to spend 40 minutes talking about, U of A basketball, right? And I'm clouding my job. I like this guy, right? And then, Dina might be next to me. Well, like, you really didn't ask him any questions about like the actual job, right? Or like, did you really see like this huge gap on the resume? I might be a little biased because something stands out. I really like this guy as an individual. Well, that's great, but that doesn't mean he can do the actual job. And that's why it's good to have somebody sitting next to you that can kind of hold you, that can keep you accountable and can kind of chime in, I should say, and help, deflect some of these things or help you keep yourself on track. Should some, you kind of get off tangent or you're talking about something that's not necessarily relevant to the job. Um, yeah, similar, right? You have a lot in common with somebody. Okay. Um, maybe you just met with a candidate that was really bad and it was a brutal interview, and the second guy is just, light years better. And you're like, oh, well, this must be the one, right? So there's just a lot of things. There's a lot of coaching and training that we can help you as we start to learn a little bit more about your process and what it is that you're currently doing, how you may have struggled in the past. We can help you go through all these things and figure out how to remove some of this stuff or to protect yourself against it so that you can have more fruitful conversations down the road. Okay. Um, a lot of these are common sense, right? You want to be positive, have a conversation, okay? Give them a chance. I want you to ask questions. I tell them that, hey, I expect you to come on in here and ask a lot of questions. That's what I'm here for, okay? Clearly explaining the next steps is another area where some people make mistakes. Okay, let them know. Okay, I have 5 more interviews this week. That's fine. I will follow up with you by Monday to discuss the next steps. When I speak with you on Monday, here's what's going to happen. Okay, I'm going to notify you. You're going to be meeting with the hiring manager. That's the person who makes the final decision. Okay, so on and so forth. Right, and then again, thanking them for taking time out of their day to jump on the phone with you, or whether you're doing in-person interviews. Okay. Pre-employment. Okay. If you need to do tests, that's another thing that I'd say is maybe, 50-50 right now. Some of our clients use some type of pre-employment screenings. I think background check is a no-brainer in my opinion. You have to have a background check for obvious reasons, but I'm talking about things in addition to the background check, right? Whether it's personality or other any task specific or company specific types of tests, you need to make sure that you are implementing them in a way that's non-discriminatory, right? And that there's a business justification. Okay. References are another thing. Before we kind of wrap up here and start asking questions, references are another thing that a lot of people skip over, and I don't know why. I love calling references. Okay. And it's very simple, right? Again, if I really wanted this job, okay, I could easily get 3 people that are going to answer the phone when you call, and then they're going to tell you how great that I am. And that's what you're looking for in references. States have gone in and have have trimmed down and have neutered this process to the point that that's all you can get. But that's huge. Do you know how many times that I call references and they don't answer my call and they don't ever call me back? Or I say, hey, I'm Brett from Pay Entry and I'm calling on behalf of Dina Smart. And they're like, huh? Right? Huge red flag. I'm withdrawing the offer. If I get anything like that, I'm withdrawing the offer. Okay? Because if Dina really wanted this job, the first thing she would have done when she left my office would have called whoever, her mom, her cousin, her brother, her neighbor, and said, hey, Brett Strauss from Pantry is going to call. Here's his number that he's going to be calling from. Please, please, please make sure you answer the phone and just tell him how great I am. Right? I've done it. I've withdrawn offers. Tens of offers in the past few years I've withdrawn because people have given me bad references, people that don't answer the phone. It just shows me that you don't care, right? If you're not willing to go through the hoops and line up 3 people who can take, hey, yeah, Dina's awesome, cool, man, good luck. That's all I want to hear. Okay, and it's free. It takes 10 minutes to be able to pick up the phone and call. Okay, background checks. Must. There are states that have negligent hiring causes of action, meaning if you hired somebody and something goes horribly wrong, okay, and the answer when you're in litigation, the answer is, geez, if you would have spent $15 on a background check, you would have never hired this guy in the first place. You don't want to be in that position, okay? You're going to lose the lawsuit, and you might actually have to defend that claim out of pocket because your general liability company is going to say, you should have, you're asking us to pay out $1 million judgment when $10 would have prevented this in the first place. Yeah, we're out. No thanks. This is on you. Okay. Any type of service business, right? I was shocked. We have a client, to remain named. I'm not going to tell you where they are, but it's a service business, right? They send people to your home to perform some type of service. Okay. They were sending people into homes without background check. I was shocked. You mean to tell me that this lady, my wife and I'm on an air conditioner, right? I might need you to fix my AC. I'm at work and you're sending this guy into my house and you have no idea who he is or where he's been? Out of your mind, right? You've got to make sure that you have background checks. No brainer, everybody. Okay. We talked about social media. We talked about, other things that are most important when it comes to just basic laws. Some states have them, some states don't. Okay. If you need help understanding what is acceptable and what's not in your state, please let me know. I'll be glad to jump on the phone and we can talk about that. Okay. Lastly, here on the offer, and then I'll set aside time for questions. I know we're right up on the hour, but I will stay. And if you have questions, I'll gladly answer them. If you'd like to just email them to the HR services inbox at Payentry, then I'll reply offline. You want to have an offer letter. Okay. You've gone through the process. You've interviewed people. Okay. You've identified somebody. You want to make sure that you're making an offer. Okay. I love you, but okay, there are contingencies. I'm running a background check. Okay. I'm going to call your references. I'm going to, you need to go through some other type of pre-employment screening. That way, if there is a red flag that comes back, you can easily just withdraw the offer. Hey, thank you, but we ran the background check and some issues arose that we're not comfortable with, so we have to withdraw the offer. Okay. A lot of people get this wrong. They're just like, oh, they just jump right to let's get started. And you know what? In some instances you get lucky and it works, but more often than not, it doesn't work, and you end up in that bad hire situation because there's a red flag that we didn't uncover until it was too late. Okay. Thank you guys for jumping on. Okay, that's just a little overview as to what we do on the front end and how we can help you. Okay, as Dina mentioned, please take a look at our pay entry site. There's the events tab that has all of our upcoming webinars. Continue to join us every month. I think we're the third Tuesday of every month. We have some type of content that I'm putting on. I'd love to see you join us again. And with that, I'm going to open it up for any type of questions. So if you have some questions, please jump in on the question box there on the GoToMeeting, and I'd be glad to answer any questions that you might have. And again, if you've got to jump off, I understand my feelings aren't hurt. You can just send me something offline, and then I'll be glad to respond back to you. Okay. All right, here are a few. Proper way to discard applications and resumes. That's a great question. Don't ever discard applications and resumes. You should keep them in a file, okay? They should be in a file as long as your retention statutes, depending on what state you're in, say so. So in California, here we use a 5-year statute, and I have resumes back 5 years. So what I use is a job requisition type system, something like this, okay? February 2025 customer service rep. I've got a folder. That's what it says on it. Okay. And then everybody that comes in that applies, I put them all in that folder. Okay. And I just file it, right? So 5 years. And then after that, I kind of throw it away, because if you don't, right, the burden of proof is always going to be on you as the employer. And what happens is, let's just say, Tiffany and, Tara are going for the same job. Okay. And I decide I want to hire Tiffany for whatever various reasons. If I shred all of that documentation, now Tara can say, oh, well, this is discrimination. Brett didn't hire me because he only hires, females that are over the age of 40 that have X, Y, and Z. And that's discrimination. Huh? No, right? Here's both resume. Here's Tiffany's resume. Here's Tara's resume. Okay. The reason why I hired Tiffany is because she has 10 years of experience in my field, right? Or she, lives close by and was able to, work the job schedule. And here Tara on her application says that she was unable to work on, nights and weekends, and that's the majority of my business. So there's my justification. You want to just hang on to that stuff to protect yourself. Okay. Why would we do a reference after making an offer instead of before you make an offer? Yeah, because it could end up you could end up getting yourself into a discriminatory practice, right? If we're usually only asking for references once we're or call, we can ask for the references, but we're not calling them until we make the offer. Okay, it's a time thing. Like, why would I want to call all these references on somebody that I'm not going to hire? It's a waste, in my opinion. And yes, I would call them for any position. I call references on anybody. Okay? It doesn't matter who it is, I'm calling because I want to know that they're taking this seriously. Okay. Get hired, yes. If you're using our Get Hired platform, that is awesome. Okay, that will help you with the retention statutes. It will help you keep everything that you need. You don't need to worry about anything, above and beyond that, unless you're printing things off and keeping, paper records there internally. Okay? How do you handle it when people disclose personal information? Right? Yeah, it happens a lot. Okay. If somebody discloses something that's problematic, you should address it. Okay. The most common one that I've heard is, oh, we're talking about a customer service presentation, a rep position. Cool. What's your schedule? All right. And then, oh, well, just so you know, I'm 2 weeks pregnant. And I just sit here and I'm like, oh man. Okay. Thank you for sharing. That doesn't have anything to do with what we talked about, but oh, okay. Well, okay. Congratulations. Okay. And we, acknowledge it, and we should probably make a note, because whether or not they just kind of blurted it out, or whether or not it was one of those situations that I described where they are trying to set you up, and it's happened before. Okay, we want to go back and acknowledge that. Hey Tiffany, I had a great time meeting you. Thank you so much for expressing interest in pay entry. Congratulations on your little one when it comes along. Just letting you know that we're deciding to move in a direction with a different candidate. A candidate that has 15 years of payroll experience already and has been processing for one of our competitors. Right. So if somebody does throw you a curveball and they disclose something that they shouldn't have and it's super awkward, again, that's what we're here to help you. We can coach you and teach you on how to address that so we don't have any issues. Okay. Um, Recording, yes. Yes, absolutely. Dina, Lorena, and our marketing team will absolutely send out. We've got the recording, we've got the slides, we have it in video format, we have it in podcast format. And then lastly, if you have any questions, reach out. HR services at payentry.com. We have myself, we have our whole team. We'd love to talk with you, figure out, what are you struggling with? What might we be able to do to help you figure out, where you might be missing the mark, and how we can, solve some of these issues by just using some of these strategies that we had talked about. Okay. Last question here. Let's see. Strengths and, struggles and some of the younger generations. Yeah, I do. Glassdoor, right? All I'll tell you, I'll leave you with one little piece of food for thought here. Glassdoor. If you are not familiar with Glassdoor, please make yourself familiar with Glassdoor. Okay, it is a website that all of these younger generations of employees live and die by. Okay, they love going on there. They love leaving reviews about their current employer, their previous employer, and they take all of the stuff that's on there to heart, right? And I know, because I asked them, hey, how did you find this job? Right? What did we do this? How did you find this? How did you find that? And like, oh yeah, I looked at Glassdoor. There's some great reviews. Okay. I also have clients on the flip side. Brett, man, I'm paying the highest salary out of anybody in my industry. I'm overpaying, and I can't keep these people. What's going on, right? And I look at Glassdoor, right? Yeah, don't ever go work at Pay Entry, because Brett Strauss is a jerk. Yells and screams, won't teach you. Make one mistake, they fire you, won't coach you, won't train, blah 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 blah, right? And I'm like, dude, here it is. This is why. This is why you can't get anybody. You have horrible reviews, right? And nobody's going in there and responding to them. Right? Just like if you're in a service business, how you'd go on Yelp or Google to make sure that your customers are happy, right? Glassdoor. That's my last little nugget for you guys. Thank you so much for taking time out of your Tuesday to join. As I said, if you have a question that's specific and I didn't get to it today, please just email me at the HR services email address, and I'll be glad to respond to you in the next day or two, so that we can help get you in the right pointed in the right direction. All right. Thank you guys. We'll see you again in March.